hand for Chef Shaun O'Neale.
Oh, thank you guys so much. It's great to be back here at ZestFest. This is my second time making it down to Dallas for this great event. Just to start off with, how many people are Gordon Ramsay fans out there? We got a few. He's really not an a-hole. He's actually a nice guy. He's become an amazing mentor to me. Since winning the show, I've been fortunate to travel the world and to be able to share recipes that I've was cooking on the show, that I knew before the show, and that I've learned since. We've been everywhere from Italy, Ireland, Costa Rica. This year we've got events planned in Dubai. They're opening the first ever MasterChef restaurant in Dubai this year, so I get to go and be a guest chef there. Some events in Singapore and all over the country. So it's been a crazy journey, but really one of the best things about MasterChef is it gives you a platform to be able to go and do stuff like this. But it's still a lot of work coming off of that. A lot of people that have won this show have kind of gone back to their homes and kind of thought the phone was going to instantly start ringing, and that's just not the way it works. Just like any of these guys will tell you out here, you really got to get out and promote and market. For me, it was big about getting out and learning, because as you know, Master Chefs, we are amateur home cooks. We are by no means professional. So I've taken this opportunity to really get out and learn and soak up as much knowledge as I can so I can share all that great food info with you guys. So today we're going to do a dish that's becoming super trendy, super popular, Nashville hot chicken. I was just in a restaurant in Vegas yesterday that's serving Nashville hot chicken. So that dish has branched out from its roots in Nashville and now has kind of had different spins put on it. We're going to do one that has a little bit of a sweetness to it, but this thing is spicy. I mean, I'm talking over a third a cup of cayenne pepper in this dish. So it's gonna heat you up. Be careful on the samples because it is super spicy. Well, I'm also going to teach you how to make some homemade bread and butter pickles. Anybody like making pickles or doing pickling out there? It's kind of becoming a lost art form, but they're so good when you can make them at home. And these have, like most bread and butter pickles do, they have some turmeric in them. Turmeric gives it that nice yellow color and also that little bit of a sweet, acidic type of a taste. So without further ado, let's get started. They've already got my pickling liquid made here. This is really just pickling spice, which is usually coriander seed, cumin seed, black pepper, fennel seed. You can really make your own pickling spice out of different seed varieties, but it's super easy just to buy the pickling spice that's already packaged up for you. So we're going to go ahead and get this in here. Generally, I would start by toasting off all those spices. So over low flame, low heat, you want to toast off those spices to get them nice and aromatic. You'll smell it. Then you're going to deglaze with the vinegar. In this case, we're using apple cider vinegar. You could use white wine vinegar. Really, it doesn't matter. It's just to get that acidity in there. Sweet. Thank you very much. And then obviously the turmeric, which is kind of settled at the bottom here. So let me kind of scrape this stuff out. All right, and we've also got some garlic in here. I put a ton of garlic in here. I really want that flavor to kind of shine through. I want you to be able to taste the garlic in the pickles, so you really have to add quite a bit. So let me turn this guy on here. All right, nope, we're good. All right, so on to the chicken. We're using boneless, skinless chicken thighs here. Excuse me. Let me grab some gloves. You can really use any kind of chicken. If you're going to use a breast, you're definitely going to want to pound it down. More for the evenness than anything else. You're not really tenderizing or anything like that. You really want that evenness for evenness of cooking. So let me take a look at these thighs here. Yeah, so those are pretty thin. They're pretty even all the way through. I might actually even pound those out a little bit just to get it on a nice maybe 1/8 of an inch or somewhere around that thickness. But these are all right. These will do for today. And then we're going to soak these guys in some buttermilk, which is a classic fried chicken preparation. So we're going to soak these guys in some buttermilk and then some hot sauce, some bay leaf, and some garlic. All right, and we'll give that a little bit of a stir. What should I do with this? Just to kind of get those flavors incorporated. You could let this sit for anywhere from an hour minimal to overnight. Overnight, obviously, that buttermilk's going to start breaking down the chicken a little bit, so you're going to change the texture of your final product just a little bit, not too much. But buttermilk is somewhat acidic, right? So buttermilk's going to actually start to tenderize and break down that chicken. So best case scenario, let it sit 5 hours to overnight. Worst case scenario, an hour. Doing a demo and for TV, 10 to 15 minutes. So, all right, so our chicken is marinating. We'll go ahead and chop up some of our cucumbers here for our pickles. And really, you can go whatever kind of thickness you want. This knife is a little small. You can really do whatever kind of thickness you want on these. I like them kind of, not super thin, but not super thick. All right, nice little chop on those cucumbers. We'll set these guys aside, and we will wait for our pickling liquid to start coming to a simmer. And we're close there. Any questions out there so far? Yes, ma'am. That was just the cucumbers. About in there. Talking about thickness? Yeah, somewhere about in there. It can vary. Really, whatever your preference is.
Can you repeat the question?
I heard her.
Yes, I was just wondering
sorry.
the thickness. I couldn't see what
thickness is really whatever your preference is. I know some people who really like big, thicker pickles. This recipe really works either way. I like them kind of not super, super thin, like mandolin sliced thin, but so you still feel that crunch. You know, that's the best part about having the pickle on there is it gives you a little bit of an extra crunch. So I personally like them somewhere in that range, if you can see that. Oh, yeah, sliced. Yes, ma'am. Any other questions out there? Anything about MasterChef? Anybody been dying to know anything about MasterChef? Sorry, I literally just got off a flight. My plane is still in brain mode. There you go.
If you've got a question, throw your hand up. We'll bring the mic to you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we're also going to add some white onion, to these pickles. And that's really just to bring in a little bit more flavor. So we're going to add some white onion. Again, same thickness, maybe a little bit thinner on the onion. Oops. Not that thick. So maybe a little teeny bit thinner on the onion. All right, so there we go. All right, we'll add these to a separate bowl. We'll check on our pickling liquid. All right, we're going to pretend this is boiled. This is simmered off everything. Once it comes to a boil, you really want to get it over your cucumbers pretty quickly. You want that residual heat to not fully cook the cucumbers, but it will kind of help soften them a little bit. One last thing I forgot. This is a pickling crisp. They've already added it to my pickling liquid. Whew, I just got hit with that vinegar right there. The pickling crisp, again, will help you keep that super crispiness of the pickle. So it's really good to use. It's usually found in like the canning sections where man, every time I walk by it, I get hit with the vinegar right as I'm talking. It's usually found in the canning sections near the mason jars and stuff like that. So we will just pour this straight over our pickles. I guess I should do that where you guys can see, huh? Act like you've done this before, Shaun. All right, and then you're just going to cover these guys. Let them come to room temperature first. Then go ahead and store them in your refrigerator. These guys will last for a while. About 2 weeks you can get away with. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, you mentioned before that we could ask anything about MasterChef.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You know how they film, and it makes it look like you were all there forever, and your family comes to visit you, whatever. Yep. How long are you there for?
I was there for about 3.5 months. Yeah, about 3.5 months of filming. My season was a little bit different because they did send us home. Gordon and the judges actually came to our houses for the finalists. But the overall filming was about 3.5 months, locked away from everything you know. MasterChef, as soon as you land in LA, they take your cell phone away. They put it in a little Ziploc bag with your name on it, and that thing is locked away until you are eliminated. So you can imagine when you turn your phone back on, it's a little bit crazy. You're really not allowed to tell anybody where you are. So, you know, I was a DJ in Vegas, and I just disappeared one day. So there was a lot of crazy rumors and all kinds of stuff because you're under such a strict contract that you can't tell anybody what you're doing. It's a $5 million non-disclosure agreement, right? So it's pretty tough. You're locked away from everything you know. So all that emotion you see when family members come, that's about as real as it gets. While you're there, you get 1 10-minute phone call a week on a burner phone, right? And it changes every week, so they never know what number to call back, right? They've had issues with people's family constantly calling, going crazy, husbands trying to track down wives and things like that. I mean, it's a long time, you know. Families have troubles. People lose their jobs. It's a pretty crazy experience. So every emotion you see on that show is 100% real.
Would you do it again, Chef?
I would, but in a different capacity. You know, they've been talking about doing an all-star season. I would not want to compete in that. I want to give somebody else their chance to do it. But I mean, I would do other things. I've been approached by a couple shows, so we'll see what happens in the future. I like the competition edge, man. Like, it's when you're there, that adrenaline is so crazy. And, you know, coming from the DJ world, I've done my fair share of stupid things, right? And being in an environment like MasterChef with that type of adrenaline is about as close as you can get to those stupid things, right? But still being natural and legal. But it's just one of those crazy situations.
Chef,
all right, any other questions out there? Did I see a hand up over here?
Yes, sir. Hang on 1 second. On my way. Yes, sir.
So the creativity that y'all have in like 20 minutes, 30 minutes sometimes, is that really, they give you kind of any preparation, or is it really real?
The time frames?
Yes.
Time frames are as real as they get. That was the one thing that when I went on the show, I was like, there's got to be some BS involved in this, right? There's no way that this can happen in an hour. It's crazy, the adrenaline, when the adrenaline starts going. And here's what I tell people. Think about it. When you're at home and you're cooking, you're having a beer, you're talking to the wife, you're chasing down the kids, you know. When you're focused in on something and every move that you make is cooking related, you can get a lot more done, right? But that was the one thing I thought, dude, I pulled off 3 desserts. My hardest challenge on the show was a 3-dessert challenge, and it was an elimination battle. We had to make see if I can remember them. It was a milk chocolate cheesecake, a dark chocolate lava cake, and a white chocolate eclair with white chocolate ganache on top and a white chocolate mousse filling. We had to do that in an hour, right? In an hour. And granted, there was 3 or 4 of us that had to do the challenge. None of us did it perfectly, right? I was the only one whose lava cake actually stood. Everybody else's melted away. But to be able to pull that off in an hour, like when they said the challenge, I'm like, like there's no way. Like, there's no way any of us are finishing it. But the adrenaline gets going, and you're in that rhythm of the kitchen, and some crazy magical things kind of start happening. It's nuts. That was the one thing I thought, though, man. I'm dead serious with you. All right. Anybody else? Good. Back to food. All right. Okay, cool. So we've got our chicken marinating over here. We're going to let it have a couple more seconds. I'm going to go ahead and prepare my flour mix. So we've got a lot of things going on here. So we've got some salt going in, some pepper, good bit of pepper. That's the cayenne. Oh, that's definitely the cayenne. And then some paprika, and then garlic powder, onion powder, and a little bit of garlic salt, just to add a little bit more of that garlicky kick. All right, I actually first designed, the reason there's so much garlic in this is I first designed this recipe for Gilroy Garlic Festival out in Gilroy, California, which is an event that I have been doing every year. So just in case you were wondering why there's so much garlic. And if you're ever in California in July, make your way out there. It's a really, really, really cool event. Okay, so let's get our whisk, and we'll do a little whisk here on our flour, just to kind of get this good and incorporated. All right. And you'll see that flour start to turn color. It'll be like a kind of a beigeish, reddish kind of a color. Okay. So let me find something to set these on after I bread them. Let's see what we got in here. Okay, let's just do this. Okay. So since we've soaked these in buttermilk and they've been sitting for at least an hour, you don't really need to make an egg wash and go back and forth and back and forth. But one thing I do like to do is when I do bread these, I want to get the flour on there, and then I want to squeeze that flour in, right? And what that's going to do is that creates all those little crispy edges and little cracks and crevices that we like so much in fried chicken, right? So once we've got that nice and breaded, we're going to set that aside. I like to put these in the fridge for about 45 minutes to an hour just to let that breading really set up nicely on these guys. So again, give it a nice squeeze. You might have to apply more flour and then give it a nice squeeze again. And don't be afraid to get excess flour in there and give it a nice squeeze. All right? It's 2 done.
Chef, it does seem to be the more popular thing now to do like a double breading. Into the egg wash, back in and back in and back out.
It depends on your application. This one, since you're soaking in the buttermilk, you really don't need that. And that's really to develop layers of crispiness.
Right.
But since you're soaking in the buttermilk and doing this squeeze method, you're already developing those little, like I said, those cracks and those valleys of breading. All right, so we'll get this last guy done here, and then we'll crank up our oil. All right, so we'll talk about the cookbook a little bit. I did bring plenty of copies if anybody is interested in purchasing a copy. It's called My Modern American Table. You did miss one word in that.
I apologize, Chef.
No worries. So the cookbook is part of the MasterChef prize package. It was, you'll hear this from anybody who ever wrote a book or anything. It was a labor of love. Little background on the cookbook. I had to write it in about 3 months. With MasterChef's schedule, to be able to advertise it and promote it the next season, you are on a very, very tight schedule. So I was up 24 hours a day, pretty much banging this thing out. There's a lot of great recipes, everything from beginner to intermediate. I won't say expert level because I'm still learning. Like I said at the beginning, I'm nowhere near an expert. So one of the cool things is I like to kind of teach you how to do classics or do these harder dishes, but in a little bit simple, more refined way at home. For example, anybody ever make fresh homemade pasta? Anybody? A couple? Okay. So instead of making a well and spending all this time to really incorporate those eggs, I'm going to teach you an easy way to do it in 90 seconds in a food processor. And the reason we've been making it by hand for so long is because KitchenAid hadn't been invented yet, right? So now that we have this equipment, we can use these tools to make life a little bit easier. So by being able to make pasta in 90 seconds, that lets you focus on the sauce or focus on the filling or focus on all those flavorful components that really make pasta special. So again, if anybody wants to check out the cookbook, please feel free to find me after the demo. I'll probably be right over here somewhere. And they are going for $25 a copy, and I can take cash, credit, all the popular forms of payment. So, all right, any questions about the recipe,
I'm on my way. Hang on one second.
So when you're mashing the flour into the chicken to get it more crispy, can you do that with like fish or
Well,
chicken
fish
fried
is a little
steak,
more
or
gentle. Any type of chicken, chicken breast, thighs, and even if you're doing it bone in, you can definitely do that. Fish is obviously a little more of a gentle product, so you would want to be a little more gentle. But absolutely, make a kind of cup your palm and kind of get in there, but be gentle. You don't want to squish it where the fish kind of splashes out everywhere.
Chicken fried steak.
Oh yeah, absolutely. What this does is, like I said, when you go to your favorite fried chicken place and those little cracks and valleys, that's kind of what that accomplishes. Yeah, a lot of people are scared to kind of manhandle their food. I get asked the question a lot that what's the difference between a home cook and a chef? Now that I've kind of experienced both of those worlds, there's kind of two. Chefs aren't afraid to kind of throw things around, slam a steak down. We know that it's not going to hurt the food, and cooking over high heat, right? Chefs cook over high flames. You can't, there's not many stoves out there that are not in multi-million-dollar homes that really can replicate a kitchen fire, right? It's high heat and it kind of slapping your food around, and I don't know, it's strange, but those are the two things that I feel like are the biggest differences, right? And obviously the knowledge and things like that. But when it comes to simple stuff like this, it's high heat and it's kind of tossing your food around. So, yeah. All right. Any other questions?
Thank you, man.
Good to go? All right. We're going to test this oil here, see how it is. All right. We got a little bit of time heating this oil up. Let me try to get up. All right. I'm not sure if that's on or not. All right. We're going to carefully move this over here because I know this one's on. All right, so let's see. We got a couple seconds. Oh, toasting off our bread. We've got our oven at 350. We'll just go ahead and throw this in. We're just going to toast the bread just a little bit, just to give it a little bit golden brown coloring and a little bit of that extra crunch when we bite into the sandwich. All right, so here is where the hot chicken part comes in on the Nashville hot chicken. And this is the spices that go in at the end. Basically, the way they do Nashville hot chicken is they use that oil that they've been cooking in all day. I know it's not the healthiest sounding, it's oil on oil, but they use that oil that they've been cooking in all day, and they add their spices to a bowl like this, right? So we're gonna put all this stuff in here: brown sugar, cayenne, chili powder, paprika, that's it. A little bit of salt. Oops, I just spilled a little bit of salt. Okay, so what they're gonna do is after we cook the chicken, we're gonna remove some of this oil and we're gonna put it in here over these spices. And what that does is it toasts off those spices and kind of gives them that aromatic essence that we want to bring to the party, right? So that oil is essentially cooking these spices just a touch after we remove it from the fry pan. So we'll give this a nice stir, make sure it's all good and incorporated in here. And you could change this if you want. You don't have to add quite as much spice if you don't want it quite as spicy. Kind of rein back on that. Don't add as much brown sugar if you really wanted it a lot spicier. Just try to break up all these little brown sugar clumps in here. And then let's give our oil another test now we've got it over some high heat. All right, there we go. So let me grab some more gloves before we do this, since it is chicken.
Chef, does that buttermilk bath that it's been in for as long as you left it, does that in any way mitigate the heat that you're putting on it when you do the spice rub?
No, you want to be between 350, 375 ideally. I'd like to go a little bit higher, obviously, because as soon as you put chicken in, that temperature is going to drop in the pan. So I like to go a little bit higher, so that's why I recommend starting out at 375. Don't overload your pan. That's going to kill your heat even more. So I recommend, again, like 4 pieces like we've got here, going in at a time. You don't want to crowd the pan. You want to have a little bit of area to float around.
Yes.
And that's so, this is a deep fry, right? It's not a pan fry, even though we're using a pan. A deep fry, it should be able to move. It should be able to circulate around the cooking vessel. Pan fry, obviously, with this, you're running a risk of maybe burning the chicken a little bit on a pan fry. So I like to do more of a floating deep fry. All right, so we'll get these guys in here. All right, 4 pieces is pretty good for this size of a pan. We're gonna give this a little shake just to make sure it's not sitting on the bottom. And then we're just gonna let these guys cook.
Chef, I did notice you were doing that dredging move to put the chicken into the pan.
Yeah,
I've
so
seen a lot of
that helps it from sticking again on the bottom. You're kind of moving it back and forth to get a little bit of a pre-cook, if you will, onto the chicken.
One more question over here, Chef.
Yeah.
Real quick, what kind of oil do you use?
This is just vegetable oil, but it's really, again, your preference. I prefer vegetable for frying, unless I'm doing like a turkey. I prefer peanut oil for turkey, but vegetable oil is safe, especially in a restaurant. You really nowadays can't fry in peanut oil. There's just too many allergies out there, and peanut's one of those big ones. Sadly, it is one of the best oils to fry in, but for this, just vegetable oil, canola oil, that'd be fine. All right. Any other questions out there?
Oh, one in the back here, Chef. Hang on. On my way. Yes, sir. Oh, thought we had a question, Chef. My bad.
Oh, yeah? Was he swatting a fly?
May have been. Calling a cab.
All right. So these are going to cook for probably they're pretty small pieces, so 5 to 6, maybe 7 minutes at most.
And those are completely submerged. We're not talking about flipping and that sort of thing.
I'm going to flip them, but that's just really to kind of check them at the same time. So you can already see those little cracks and those crevices starting to develop there, right? Mm-hmm. There's nothing worse than getting that piece of chicken and that breading just cracks and falls all over the place, right? You want that breading to stick. You want it to hold. So yeah, it's already getting those nice, cracky, valleys and ridges right in there. That's exactly what we want to see. And that is actually a whole lot of this. For that amount of chicken, I'm going to separate this up a little bit. Do I have any more bowls? We're running out of equipment up here. Used it all. All right. That's a little more reasonable for that amount of chicken. All right, so again, we're looking for about 5 to 7 minutes. Those are looking pretty beautiful. We'll give those another minute, minute and a half. So I'll tell you a couple other things about MasterChef that you might have been dying to know but didn't realize. So a lot of questions, one of the biggest questions I get is the food cold when the judges taste it? Well, yes, obviously it is. There's so many people when there's still 20 people in there, but they always tell you they do not judge on temperature, which is a tricky situation because temperature can change flavors sometimes. But the way they kind of get around that, have you ever wondered why, how did they know who the top 3 dishes were, right? All of a sudden, 3 people are coming down to the front of the kitchen. First off, Gordon Ramsay can spot if you're doing something wrong from across the room, down the highway, and up another couple city blocks, right? He knows food. He knows food so well that he can spot it from a mile away if you're doing something technically wrong. Second off, as soon as we finish cooking, they pretty much rush us out of the kitchen, right? We get rushed out, and what the judges do is they walk around, and they taste not off our plates, but they taste like the extra sauce that we have. They'll look and make sure that the steak is cooked properly. You know, Gordon can tell that just by feeling something or by giving a little squeeze, right? So that's how they know who the top 3 are. They're walking around after we finish and tasting the individual components of everybody's dishes to kind of figure that out. So there's a little inside information that you might not have wanted to, or might not have realized you wanted to know. All right, so those look pretty good, pretty beautiful golden brown. We're going to move these guys out. But that's exactly what you want to see, all those little cracks and valleys and nice little crevices that are going to hold this oil sauce type thing that we're about to make. All right, so here's where it gets a little weird, but this is the way they do it in Nashville. So we're going to transfer some of this oil, and this bowl is already getting hot. About a cup of the oil. And you can see it's foaming and fizzling. It's cooking those spices that are in this bowl. So give this a little stir. We're going to need a little more oil. Oops. See, as soon as I put the oil in, it's sizzling and cooking those spices so they don't have that raw taste. I can already smell it. It smells just like Nashville hot chicken. All right, so is there a camera that you guys... So that's kind of what we're looking for. Can you guys make that out?
Yeah, we got an overhead shot, Chef.
Oh, do
Looks
we?
good.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So yeah, we're looking for kind of like a paste. Let me check on my bread back here. Ooh, that's toasty. Okay. So we've got a little bit of a chili paste going on, or a chili spice paste going on over here. So we're going to put our chicken right in there. And we'll flip these guys around, make sure they are very nicely coated. Again, that you don't want any of the coating falling off in this stage, right? So that's why you want to do that nice press. Make sure you get a little bit of muscle behind it, and make sure that it is nice and well coated. All right, see? All the breading held up nicely, right? No breadings falling off. Good to go. Got a little bit more stir in there. Okay, now we're just going to construct a little sandwich. Guess we'll just do it right here. Do we have like presentation plates or anything? No? Okay. Okay, so we'll grab one of our hamburger buns. I think we're going to serve it to you guys on some Hawaiian rolls. I really like it on brioche. Works really, really well. That nice kind of buttery sweetness of the brioche. All right. right, so we'll just put one piece on there. Actually, you know what? Might be able to put 2 pieces on there. And then we will just top it with some pickles. Obviously, these pickles, they haven't really gotten to the texture that they should be for pickles. So usually about 2 hours of sitting in the brine will turn them into that nice kind of crispy but soft texture that we know and love with pickles. The ones that are coming out for your samples actually came out really well. So
And uncovered for the pickles is okay, or do we need to cover those?
Uncovered, covered, it really doesn't matter. Obviously, once you're going to store them for a little while,
Sure.
once you're done for the day, cover them up.
Right.
Just keep them in a mason jar. That's the way I do them. All right, so there we go. There we have our Nashville hot chicken sandwich. And I think they're going to get you guys some samples. So are there any other questions out there before we wrap up?
You said sample. I think you lost
Yeah,
it at
right.
samples.
That takes everybody's focus away.
Thank you so much, Chef.
Yeah,
Would you
thank
please
you.
give it up for Chef Shaun O'Neale?
Thank you. And again, I will be kind of hanging out right over here if anybody wants to come check out the cookbook, and I'd be happy to sign it and chat you up with some more MasterChef tidbits.
Yes,
So,
sir. It's called
awesome.
My Modern American Table. It has an honored place in my own kitchen, I must say,
sweet.
Chef.
Thank
I
you
am
very much.
Working my way through it.
Nice.
It's a chore, but I do appreciate it. You'll enjoy the cookbook, and you'll really enjoy the sandwiches. Thank you, Chef Shaun.
Thank you.
We'll have the samples out here in just a second, folks. Thank you. Thanks, Shaun.